As discipline runs out, you know, you see it in our school, you see it in other schools, the first honeymoon stage for a few weeks, rah, 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 motivated, up in the morning, early, and then it just kind of drains off. And then there's no longer, it just kind of like, whatever, tired or whatnot. But if we're motivated by love, then we begin to see and learn about wisdom and how I can carry myself better as we walk in this intimacy with Jesus in every way.
Good. Anyone else?
He said it all. He said all what we were thinking.
Oh.
Do you want to
Do you want
share?
me- I
Yeah.
got a list. Do you
Yeah,
want-
yeah, listen out.
Okay, well, our first one too was know Jesus. The
Right.
second, well, actually one that came first before that was experiencing the story like you're there. That's
Right.
like DNA for Word of Heart.
Yeah. Experiencing story, yep.
Yeah, and then be open to your heart changing.
Right.
And then we've got a good one that's ongoing. Know how to explain the why of everything. Why do we paraphrase? Why do we go do all of these things?
Okay. And the why.
And it was pointed out that sometimes the answer comes before the question. You're experiencing something and say, oh, that happened. Well, why did that happen? You know, and it goes backwards. Cause and effect is back and forth.
Good. Great. Yeah, Linda.
It might connect in with this thing, when I was reading it, what jumped out to me was we jump from belief to doing. And the doing is because it's right. But the value should be, it's good, it's delightful, it pleases my God, and I do it because I love Him. So, that's what really stood out to me, with that. And then that brings me to just the individual. We say we're made in the image of God, and there's interaction between us. That small group that will allow people to express what God's doing in their heart, and for them to lead to that goal. So I think it connects there. If we're saying the key is the interaction, what's God doing in each individual life? The small group, if we could,
So it's like that personal transformation? Is that sort of more or less?
But the vehicle is, through the small, I think.
Like the small group and so on. Okay, great, yes, small
Giving
group.
people an opportunity, because if you don't share kind of right away sometimes what God's doing in your heart.
Yeah, it's very important. Good. Excellent. Anyone else?
I was going to point out, Matthew 28:8, just the discipleship. I was talking about this, there's all kinds of things that we can say with the teacher, with the staff, with the YWAM leader, with the school leader. But at the end of the day, we are all Christians that are called to make disciples. So I think there's an core elements of who we are. We're always making disciples. The other thing is really comes under, there's the ways we do it. As to precision, as to the role that I was being put in. But at the end of the day, it's this relationship that we're walking with people, both in that school, in that small group, and in that individual level. To give our time and to investing in discipling the individual needs and what they are walking through, not more than just what we're walking through in the scriptures. Because there's things that we disciple that might unlock for them to be able to see. It's just so we cannot take away this relational aspects of discipleship and put it into this the program we go to disciple people. But it comes back to this relationship.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
Just a quick thought. It's so easy because of the rigor of the Word.
Yeah.
We're on to another week, just finished, on task. I don't know if that's fruit, maybe, but it's easy to keep on going without identifying the other things that Don's been talking about. And so we're working on that by doing the Friday post presentation application, but I wonder if there isn't more there
There could be more there.
Yeah.
There could be more there. Anyone else? Yeah, individual.
What I really stuck out to me is just where are we going with River Heart, where do you want it to go to? How how do you want it to develop?
Mhm.
What do you want this to become, or what do you want this to look like?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
how far are we going to take this? Is this gonna be something that becomes ordinary? Like every single day, everyone should know word by heart. It's gonna be normal. It's gonna be talked about in the coffee shops. We're like, oh yeah, so how was your word by heart on the weekend? You know,
Mhm.
or is this gonna be something that's just going to become so hard and so difficult that nobody wants to do?
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to present it in such a way that it catches?
Mhm.
Are we gonna bring it into the churches? Are we gonna take this into prisons? Are we gonna bring this into schools? Or how far are you willing to take it?
Mhm.
And I'm excited because we got to go into the Old Testament. I love the Old Testament.
Mhm.
I don't like the New Testament.
Mhm.
So that gets me.
You don't like the New Testament?
I don't like the New Testament.
You don't like the Gospels?
I
You don't like Jesus?
I prefer the Old Testament because the Old Testament is the meal. The New Testament's the dessert. I want the
You don't
Old
like
Testament.
gorging on dessert?
I love-
Gabrielle loves dessert. You
More
like
people love the meals than they love dessert.
Girl, you're living in the wrong covenant.
Heather, this is absolutely key, because where we're going frames how we get there, right? And I think the key really is what Darlene said yesterday morning, the 4 legacy words, right? And so if we see word by heart moving through that grid, we know the process that enables people to learn the word. It's a tried and true process, right? We could do a little more thinking, like, why does it work? So we can have more explanation rather than just saying, we'll just do the process, just trust the process. The process is good, but why does it work, right? We could, that could be a place where we could, we could deepen that a little bit more. But it's the legacy words that give us the grid to see through. So
Yeah.
where do we want to take it? Youth, right? Christian Magna Carta. That we aspire to the Christian Magna Carta through word by heart. And the 12-week school, it's just a tool, right? I mean, you can repackage getting to know the Gospels in any which way you want, right? I mean, you know, it could be any model. The 12-week school is just a model. We can develop lots of different models. What do we want to deliver? We want to deliver, right, the truth. What about spheres, right? And we're actually, this week, for the first time, taking a step in that direction, right? So, and then the 4th legacy word was
And
any Bible, yeah, well, yes.
That's the current
I got what we're doing.
That's the current word that we're living in very
Yes.
strongly, and you guys are a part of that
Right.
word, which is all focused around the word of God.
So this is so key, Heather. What is our calling? I think we can see it through the grid, and obviously, Mark 16, 15, and Matthew 28, 18,
Yeah.
20, right?
Paul,
Okay.
Can I just say something, it has to do with this, and legacy words, and also what BJ was saying at the beginning about, you know, can we get this belief tree teaching packaged in some sort of way that we can give it to everybody coming into Word by Heart? One of the things for us with the DNA infusions that we're running, it has to do with, you know, passing on the DNA of the mission, the words of the Lord, God's call to us. And one of the things that we do in every DNA infusion, this whole teaching on belief tree is the core teaching that everything hangs on. It has to come really early because you hang everything on it after that. So doing something like that would be awesome. The other thing, right now I am working on revamping, we have a syllabus that we use, which, you know, it has a welcome letter and it has a schedule of, you know, at least the hours of the day and what's going to happen. And but beyond that, the main things that we're putting in there, and it is the foundational words we want to be sure everybody has, so that we all are coming in the door with a similar understanding. We do not yet have the legacy words in any kind of a written format. I mean, it's video clips and it's different stuff.
Right.
But we have the YWAM foundational values, and then our covenantal framework, which is something that David Hamilton has just recently worked on, that includes what are the covenants that God has made with us and we have responded to Him. That start with, so our covenantal framework, and that includes the Manila Covenant, the Red Sea Covenant, the Nanning Covenant. So these are specific words that have come to us as a mission at different points in time that are emphasizing different things that God's saying. This is a season for 4K. This is a season to emphasize, in Bible Pottery now. And these legacy words, including the spheres. So we're actually trying to have all of that in their syllabus, so when they come in the door, they have a foundational framework. They don't have the belief tree teaching in that, because we start there, but and hand all of that out and walk through it together.
It is okay. I think maybe one thing that I would add to that is empowerment. Telling people you can do this. You can actually teach other people this. I mean, this is strongly a part of who we are, really. I would say that, right?
Yeah.
You can do it, and you know what? People can do it. It's not actually, in some ways, rocket science. If we step people through the process, they're actually going to be able to learn. But that sense of personal empowerment, you can do this, I think is something that we could actually break down into some levels, but that is something I would say that we carry strongly. Okay, Vincent, yeah.
In India, we ran the school. We combined with the Word by Heart material teaching continually, but side by side, we brought the leadership issue, more like a self-leadership or servant leadership, spiritual leadership. So our all staff from outside, they couldn't come to the base, which is the cultural reason we had. But all students, week by week, they get some input in their own life, how they can be more effective as a disciple of Christ or leadership.
Right.
That brought them a lot, and because the Will by Heart is outstanding speaking from front. But when we don't develop our character or life issues that much, we are up and we can damage God's kingdom. But
So
then,
personal transformation is key.
and this time I felt in our class we had the YM values,
Yeah.
and often we point out different values.
Yeah.
But I think it is a good idea to put this one
Yeah.
in the classroom. Each time we talk something, somehow come and point out. Then unknowingly, knowingly, we grow the root and come back to see it again, see Jesus. See it. Without Jesus, we have no discord. Yeah.
So
the
good.
revelation, I guess.
Yeah, that's very, very good. Very interesting, very important. Personal transformation.
So
June.
I did the Vincent. Yes, I surely 100% I agree with you. The personal transportation is beginning in the family. So what I mean is that our Word by Heart have to be the Jesus lifestyle. So when we, for example, when I do Word by Heart, my neighborhood, my friends, they're watching me, what they are changing. So if I change my lifestyle, just like the Jesus style, they like to interesting the Word by Heart. So Word by Heart, the seed is not from you, it's from me and my family. So this is a seed. How can we proceed? So just like the farmer, they like to sprout 30 times, 60 times, 100 times. But it's beginning is small.
Yeah.
So what I mean is beginning with my family. This beginning. So
Need to be the
Very good. I
first
think.
one.
Did anyone want to go quickly? We're almost at 10:30.
I was just thinking we should
Okay.
talk about honoring that culture and serving the people we go to, not just using our words, but our action and
Like servant heartedness,
servant heart,
servant leadership.
and use their culture to empower those people by using the tool we have to offer them while we're there.
Very great. Okay, Dawn has the last words, and we can add to this.
Actually, I have one thing that is just totally, has nothing to do with anything we've talked about, but, Ji-Hoon, you were talking about family. And one of the things that I think I see with Word by Heart that really blesses me is, we say that we value families in Youth with a Mission. And one of the things that I've absolutely loved, and I think it can be so key in so many places where you go, is the fact that you guys actually have had kids doing Word by Heart. So I think Brian Riley's son, what's his name? The oldest one. Anyway, he was in here doing word by heart. I mean, Levi's back there doing word by heart, and so Tanner, yeah. So I mean, that is just one thing that reflects God's value, and it's it's not even just teenagers or what we call young people. It's going beyond that in the family level. Anyway, that has nothing to do with anything, but it's one of the things I see you expressing as a ministry that I absolutely love. I absolutely love it. It's just very exciting. The only thing I wanted to say, because I think when we come back from break, then we are going to jump in at this level, because I was asked to talk about specifically the host space and your communication and interaction. As you're thinking about going places, what are some of the questions you need to ask? What are the things that need to be decided? What are they doing? What are you doing? So it's really practical stuff. So I think we'll probably jump in there. We've already talked about, the thing I want to say, and I'd love for you to look through this even during the break time, and that is, this is called Principles Made Practical, but it is trying to come from a beliefs and values basis of why do we do what we do. But it's super, super practical stuff. So if you guys had just looked through even the table of contents, there's a couple of copies of this, because I do want to give this to you so that you can have it digitally. It has hot links from each of these places in the contents that'll go straight to that. And it can become kind of a reference book for you on very practical areas. Things to think about. What are questions to ask? What are things that need to be defined? In all different categories, whether it has to do with your communication with your students before they come, or whether it has to do with your airport pickups and how you do it, or we'll talk a little bit, I think, about how you set up the classroom for the most effective learning environment. Just some of those kinds of things. I think we'll just stick to, we'll skip to one part of what I was thinking to talk about. But I wanted to talk about this before we jump and talk about the very practical. So just take a look at these over the break time, and yeah.
Is that for sale?
It is not for sale. I'm going to give you a soft copy. You can print it if you want to. It's a little bit spinny. Christina and I were talking and discovered that she discovered I'd started out with wowing in Denmark. And so I was wowing her with all my Danish. It's a favorite dessert. And then I sang songs to her in, I didn't sing anything in Danish, Finnish, Japanese.
Wow.
One thing about music, and I don't know whether you guys pair music with word by heart at all. EJ, you might. But music has a way of remaining with people. So my parents, when they did their Crossroads ETS, they did they had scripture memorization stuff they had to do, so they did it all to songs, and that's the way they did it. So everybody every week when they had to do their oral recitation of the scripture, they would say, Russ and Dory, sing yours, and one was, in harmony, they would sing it. So it was, love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious, does not take into account wrong suffer. Anyway, yeah. So music is a wonderful thing. And then Sue came and was listening in. So anyway, that was fun. I told them too about one time I was in Disneyland, and the ride that we were on, Magic Mountain, broke down.
Oh yeah.
And I had all of these Japanese tourists who were behind me. And I've been living out in Asia, and we've been doing ministry in Japan. I don't speak Japanese, but I know a song in Japanese. And so it was like an amphitheater, I'm down at the front of the line, and they're all up. So I sang this whole song to them in Japanese.
Just one sentence, can you sing?
It was, Yesu wa mikoto wasambi, Yesu wa homeuta, Yesu wa melody, Yesu wa harmony, agamu beki okata. Okay, so then I get through the whole thing and I'm going, do you understand? And they went, no. And then I had to do it line by line. Yesu wa mikoto wasambi. It's a stupid song. Jesus is the words in the music. Jesus is the song that I sing. He's the melody. He's the harmony. Praises to his name, I will sing. Anyway, it's kind of a stupid song. So that's probably why they didn't understand it. I'm sure my Japanese was impeccable. But, because that's one thing I love doing these, the leadership training schools and the DNAs that we run. The last one that we ran last year in Chiang Mai, we had 400 people with us, and Chiang Mai, Thailand. 200 of them came out from China. So anyway, 200 of them came out from China. We did the school in English, Mandarin, Thai, Khmer, Burmese, and Vietnamese. And most of the people, they were young, like under 30, many of them, and most of them were first-generation Christians. So that's my heartbeat. That's the thing I absolutely love. And as I already said, giving Lauren and Darlene to this young generation so that they know the DNA directly from.
How did you handle all the languages?
Well, I tell you, it is a real blessing having the creativity of somebody like David Hamilton with us. Because we always do, language is a justice issue. So if you're gonna offer a school in multiple languages, then our belief and commitment is in order to value the individuals and all of those in all of those different cultures and languages, everything needs to be in all the languages. And so what we would do, we do side-by-side translation. We don't believe in doing simultaneous translation. So you might have somebody speaking in English and some people might stick everybody else on headphones, but it's never just. Because the people in that second or third or fourth language, they never have the opportunity to say, wait, I didn't get that, or, slow down or whatever. So we always do side-by-side translation. In this situation, we oftentimes had English and Mandarin up front because Mandarin was the largest. I think we always did. Because Mandarin was the largest grouping. We had 200 people. But the way we did it, we were in a very big, echoey room. And so we walked in when we saw what we were working with. We went, oh God, help! And what we did, we had the English, when the person using the English microphone would speak, it was broadcast on all of the speakers. And then when the Chinese, when the Mandarin translator spoke, it was broadcast only on the speakers at the back of the room where we had 200 people sitting. And at that same time, all of our translators that had people with headphones, they would translate at the same time as the Mandarin. So everybody got to hear the English, and then everybody heard their own language during that gap of time.
So there were
Does that make
headphones
sense?
for the small groups.
Yeah, for the smaller groups, they had headphones. So into Vietnamese and Burmese. We also had a bunch of Filipinos with us, but they all understood English, so we didn't need to translate that language. But yeah, but language is a justice issue. So I don't know whether you guys are working in multiple languages, but that's always something you need to think through. So
I'd like to add something. We as YWAM seem to always be working in English because it's an international language and you can understand. But many times I see people on the base here marginalized or segregated or whatever non-loaded word you want to use, I can't think of it, by their language group. And we are always talking in English and forcing them, but not too many people address them in their own language. Now, I tried, and I think we should make an effort to address people like the Koreans, annyeonghaseyo, the Chinese, ni hao, things like that. It just seems like it's all very one-sided. English, you got to learn English, as opposed to when does we start learning more about survival language or just enough language to honor them.
yeah, and I think that does have to do with the whole thing of valuing the individual and whatever. This is an English-speaking base in an English-speaking country. And if your only experience in YWAM is U of Ancona, you have not yet experienced YWAM.
Yeah.
Period. You really haven't. If this is the only experience, because, and it's wonderful, it's absolutely wonderful, everything that we have here, but it is getting out there to those, little bases here and there and whatever. And it's a very different experience in other places. In the Netherlands, for example, pretty much everybody in the Netherlands speaks and understands English, but everybody who comes on staff, they have a very strong program set up so that people can learn Dutch They always do their services in Dutch and English. I think one of the things we can seek to do when we're in non-English speaking countries especially, I don't know exactly how to address the one you're talking about. I think it has to be more in smaller groupings, that people begin to make an emphasis
Yeah,
in
no,
reaching out.
but part of it is,
But,
I think there should be more effort within YWAM to try to introduce, encourage, or
Yeah.
teach languages. That is,
yeah, and in many places they do. And I mean, here on this base, we teach Korean. Anybody who wants to attend, anybody who wants to go to Korean classes,
Yeah,
you know, from the Learning Center, they made that open to people.
the keys
That's where I learned Mangaso Pangawoyo.
Yeah,
That's about as far as I got.
Levi's done about 4 years of Korean, so
Yeah.
he's not so conversant.
But I mean, I know for me, it has to do with people and their language learning skills. You go to Africa, Paul, go to Africa, everybody speaks how many languages? In the United States, because we are such a huge monolingual country, we have a tendency not to learn other languages, or there's this barrier that goes up that says, I can't understand, you know?
There's no need.
Whereas when you're in Europe, everybody speaks multiple languages because they're so close to all these other countries. And in Africa, even more so. And I think some people have differing abilities to learn a language. But like for me, I'm forever, you know, I'll pick up parts of different languages, you know, and I'll speak a little Korean, a little Japanese, a little Spanish, a little German, a little French. Sometimes Lauren and his former assistant, Andy Beach, we would have conversations sometime. Andy speaks English, French, Indonesian. Lauren speaks English, Spanish. He understands and speaks quite a bit of French and German. I speak English, Spanish, and I understand quite a bit of German and French. So the three of us would we would stand there and have a conversation that is just kind of throwing all of these three languages. You just pick up a word here and there. And other people would stand on the outside of it and go, what in the world are they saying? You know, because it was just using English and Spanish and French. You know, just kind of throwing in little things and maybe a little Korean here or a little Japanese pulled in somewhere. Anyway, it was quite fun. But you guys, we have somewhere else to go in this session.
Yes,
And I had prepared about 4 chapters from Principles Made Practical. I'm going to cover one. Just to talk about, especially the location and the facility where you're going to go to do your word by heart school. Okay, so oftentimes, if you're invited into a base or a location, it might already be predetermined where you're going to hold your school. But I want to talk about the ideal. So we'll step back a little bit, and I want to give you just, we're dealing at this level now, the decisions and the actions and the programs, but I wanted to have the whole understanding of the belief tree before we jump to action, before we jump to program practices. But we want to talk about the ideal location. So these are just some things to think about. All of this is going to be, you'll have a soft copy, a digital copy of Principles Made Practical. You can go look at chapter 2 and find all the stuff there. I think, Paul, do you want to tell them what you're thinking about doing, or you want to wait and see if you do it?
No, I'll do it. I think I'll send this out right now actually, so you have something. But I think in our new teacher manual, we'll actually put some of this stuff in as well. And repurpose, Dawn just gave me permission on the break to repurpose some of this material for word by heart, training things. So taking the principle that she has and sort of moving them a little bit towards sort of what we need as well.
What could it look like in word by heart?
What could it look like in word by heart? Yeah, exactly. And this stuff is going to shift and morph from location to location. So it can't be too prescriptive, but just to sort of narrow in on some of the things that are felt needs for us. So, I mean, this is an amazing 140, 200 page document, but just to sort of shorten maybe a little bit and also start to think for word by heart, this is an idea or that's an idea, so something like that. And tie it into a manual.
With this, it was never meant to be the model. It's meant to get you thinking. You can take the principles and then you translate it into your situation, your context, whatever. But it's meant to start from this beliefs and values basis. And some of the things are quite specific, but you go, oh, well, if I translate that to my situation, it would look like this. Or if we believe this and we value that, then what could it look like? You know? I mean, even an area like hospitality. You know, in one country, it looks like one thing. You know, in North America and a lot of our YWAM bases, you know, hospitality is a basket on your bed and a handwritten note and some things to eat because we want to be sure that you don't arrive hungry. You know, and that's wonderful. But I remember when we got to South America, they said, that's nice, but in our culture, hospitality is spending time with me. And it's not putting me off in a private room all alone, it's drawing me into relationship, you know? So you have to translate everything into the situation that you're in.
Exactly.
What for an individualistic culture, what is considered hospitality, it looks way different than hospitality for a group culture.
Yes.
Yes, I hear
I
some
guess
names.
it can go along the line with somewhat like, there's how you communicate love, but there's how that person receives love.
Yeah.
So you gotta.
So we can do love,
Yeah.
everyone.
You know.
Where's my hospitality?
Yeah. But I think about hospitality. Brazil is really, you know, there is this things in the culture, and the one way I have to see is to serve the world. You know, the way we serve the story. You know, we give the best we have for our audience. We have the audience. Is we serve the world. How we can serve the world? How Jesus can explain this for these people? How He wants to talk with these people? Is give your best as we share the story. You know. Like it's not you, but it's the Father who gave the word. It's Jesus, you know. You just saw. You need to be used in this moment to be yourself, tell the story, but allow the Holy Spirit to do His job. This is
Exactly.
one way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about some real practical stuff. And this is the ideal situation. Some things to think about when you're considering, do I go to this place, or is there some place next door that might be better, or should it be this country, or maybe this country would draw in more people and have greater multiplication potential. So anyway, here's just some things. Finding the ideal location. One is that wherever you go, it will be really helpful if it can be accessed easily by other nations or by transportation. Just to think about how easy is it to get to this place where we're thinking about renting a school. You need to think about who your target audience is in order to, figure maybe everybody's traveling by land, or maybe everybody has to come in by plane or whatever. But just think about how easy is it to access this place travel-wise. A second thing would be centrally located for the greatest number of potential participants. So it's a similar kind of thing. One has to do with transportation, but the other is if you're, in a continent, the first places you start out, are they the places that are the most generally accessible to people and bring in the greatest number of participants?
Can you repeat that again? Centrally?
The first one is accessible transportation-wise. The second one is centrally located for the greatest number of people to be able to come from the region that part of the question is, God, what region is this to serve? The DNA that we're running in April in the United States, I said, look guys, we do not want this to be U.S., we don't want this to be just United States. So we ended up moving it, the person who's actually our point person lives in Madison, Wisconsin. And we sought to move it further and further and further south, offer it in English, Spanish, and French, because we're trying to draw in people from Mexico, from Central America, from the Caribbean. So we actually moved the location in order to serve the group we felt we were to serve.
Yeah.
If we end up with just a North American event, we don't have the cross-pollination that adds the strength and gives the diversity that we really want to have.
So where is it?
It's going to be on a lake in Missouri. So usually we're located at a YWAM base. We always want all of our money to help a YWAM base. That's our ideal. This is very unusual for us to actually end up, we're at a conference center that has made a really great deal to YWAM. It's where they do a lot of their YWAM stuff in that part of the world. But it's in a town called Roach. Missouri. Okay.
Also, I think for us guys, obviously our schools are smaller and it's more to do with maybe students or staff, but the location is important because, for example, to the Manawi school, we wanted to have particularly the Bangladeshis to come, but for the Bangladeshis, it's a little bit, it was too difficult to get their visas, money, this, that. I mean, I just tend to think, well, it's next door, but actually, it's a big deal to get there. So as we move forward, you know, where can we run these schools for the best, you know, connection? And maybe Hyderabad might be easier than Manali and so on. So just, you know, we're dealing with more grassroots, but as we want this to spread out, you know, how can the Sri Lankans, for example, get up there, or what do we need to take to them? You know what I mean?
So that's really the next one is.
Oh, sorry.
No, but that's great. It's making sure you have it in a place where it is accessible for the people to be able to get visas. Okay? One of the things I didn't say about the early LTSs that we ran the early ones up until 1991. They were run in English in first world settings. And the thing God spoke to us so clearly, we'd had the majority of our major international leaders in the mission by 1989 had completed a leadership training school. We had asked them all to come in for one of these schools. And so we went through and we assessed all of that and we said, well, Lord, is it time for that to end? Is that something that we stopped doing and now we do something new? And the Lord so clearly spoke to us and he said, take the banquet table to the people. There are many who have not had opportunity to eat because you have offered these courses only in English, only in first world settings. They couldn't afford to get there. They couldn't get visas to get there. They don't speak English. So that's when the Lord spoke to us that we really needed to take the banquet table to the people. And we began doing all of our stuff primarily in the developing world. That's why this is the first one we've ever done in the US. But in the developing world to make it accessible geographically, financially, visa-wise, travel-wise. And so those are, I think, really important things as you're pioneering and heading out with Word by Heart, is to think about all of these things in the language issue that Sid brought up as well. But visas, you know, if you can do it in one country, that is way easier from everybody from that whole region to get visas, versus this country, which is very restricted. You might want to pray about going to the other one. Here's another thing. You need to do it in a place that has a temperate climate. Or do it at least in the best time of year. Now, if you're doing it more regional, this is not such a big deal. For us, we bring in people from all over the world. We would always try to have a percentage of people who were international. So, I mean, I remember when we had some Rwandans who came to the first LTS we ran in Chile. And we were at the base of the Andes Mountains. And we were heading towards the middle of their winter, southern hemisphere, okay? And we would line up for the shower. There was a shower, 2 shower stalls, a men's and women's, that was just kind of out in the middle of this pioneering campus on La Pacela outside of Santiago. And you know, you would have your cup of coffee while you're standing in line to just try to keep warm. And these poor friends from Africa, I mean, they were absolutely freezing. And as the snow came lower and lower on the Andes, they got colder and colder. More so for them than for other people who lived there and were used to the change in climate. So we always try to think with the LTSs that we're running, or the DNAs that we're running, like in Togo, we said, what's the time of year that has the best climate, that has the least mosquitoes? You want to think about health issues, malaria, dengue fever, all those kinds of things, and especially if you're bringing in internationals who don't even, you know, think in that regard many times. So, but still, for whoever, you want to have it in the season, a place that's a temperate climate, and yeah, where you're thinking about what are the best months out of the year to do it in that location. Number 5, have a secure and stable environment, both in terms of politically and in physical safety and theft.
No gunshots at night.
Totally no gunshots at night. So now God may call you to do something in a place that is not terribly secure, you know? I mean, we have YWAMers that are working in situations that are not secure,
Yeah.
but if they're there on the word of the Lord.
That's
You
true.
gotta be there on the word of the Lord. And I know dear Paul Dongtunda, not Paul Dingtunda, but the other Paul Dongtunda, his uncle. You know, there have been times when the places where he's been, the Lord would just say, get off the bus now. And I mean, he jumped off the bus and ran into bushes and, you know,
Need to know how
bad
to
things
be
happen to the guys on the bus. But I mean, it's not that we don't ever go any place where there's risk, but we always want to take that into account. And if you're running a school and bringing people together, as a leader, you take on a responsibility
Yeah.
for their safety,
Yeah.
to bring them into a safe environment. So, you know, for a person to make an individual decision to go into a difficult place, that's one thing. For you as a leader to draw people together in a location that is unsafe is probably not a very smart thing to do. So you want to think about that. I already mentioned this, but the sixth one I have down here is to try to do it at a place where there is a YWAM base and YWAM presence. Now, you guys might be doing all of yours.
At the moment, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's always the ideal, is for you to do it at a YWAM location for a number of reasons. I mean, financially, you want whatever you're investing to go to help build whatever they're doing in that location. But also, you have much more influence and involvement in shaping the whole environment and making sure that everything that you're modeling, you know, if it's at a YWAM base, then we should have shared values, we should have shared beliefs. And so you're not subjecting yourself to the rules of some conference center or whatever, like we're doing in Greenville. No, I mean, fortunately, it's a Christian conference center. But you just have a lot more, you're building. That's what we want to do. We want to build. We want to influence.
Yeah.
And you may also be helping to build or rebuild, bring the DNA in that location into better alignment with what God's saying. So you always want to be at a YWAM place if at all possible, unless you have the word of the Lord not to. One of the things we have down here is to help establish the vision of the University of the Nations. And I think that's one thing as we've gone into the developing world, many of the places where we've worked, the people do not have access to university level education. And they never will within that context. And we have something that we can offer them that is just incredibly valuable and will help to give them a place of influence and a voice in their nation and as they maybe possibly move into the spheres or whatever. So it's really important that we really work to give an impartation and understanding. What is the University of the Nations? How is it unique? You know, how can you develop a degree track or whatever? So I think, you know, a lot of things you're talking about doing, thinking about doing would be some degree track possibilities into the future. But if we do not promote the University of the Nations, or if we fail to record and turn in those registration forms, we really are robbing the people who come to our schools. Because we've given them the teaching, but we haven't given the U of N credits, and we need to, because it will help them so much. And I mean, it can be a real, in the past, it used to be very, very challenging. Now there's a new registrar system online. In the developing world, that can still be difficult depending on your internet connectivity. But from what I understand, it's a lot simpler process than it used to be to register a U of N course. Please make sure, as you multiply word by heart, that you always, always link it into the University of the Nations and make sure that people do get the credits from it. Because we are robbing them.
Just one thing to say on that. You know, the new system has kicked off this year, what Dawn was talking about. And, you know, it still is a little bumpy. You know, I would say my encouragement is just to persevere with it and, you know, sort of see it through to the end. And overall, I was trying to cover that from Kona. Many of you know this. I was trying to cover it from Kona, but that is not possible. I was given I was slapped on my fingers. I can't do that. So the local bases need to register word by heart through their system. And we can help to do anything we need, but it actually has to come from that level. So, you know, I would say we just have to, whatever the challenges are, that we just persevere with it until we get there.
One of the things that's happening, you know, that registrar system, they've been working on it, they keep working on the bugs. During these meetings that are coming up here in Kona, and this mix a little bit, we have a lot of the international leaders for the University of the Nations. One of the teams that's going to be meeting towards the end of March is the registrar's team. And so Tammy Rasili is the registrar for the Pacific, and she lives here. And I've tried to work through with her, you know, because with our DNAs, I would just give them the Form A information and say, here, and now a lot of that's changed. But what I've done is, there's an email that Vince Licari or somebody sent out that tells them how to do the system. So I've just forwarded that to my coordinators. And then I've sent my old Form A, which gives them all the information so they can fill in the information on what we're going to do. Because, like Paul said, it does have to be registered in the local, and with the local registrar for that region of the world, so, yeah. Some things to think about the accommodations themselves. One is that it's really important, the highest aim is to be in a place where the students can give their full attention to learning rather than surviving.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my God.
So, because that's why they've come. So, you know, yeah, we all have lived in really pioneering situations, really rough situations. We can endure that, we can survive for a certain length of time. But if we want people to be able to focus on learning what it is that we're there to teach them, then we want to be sure that, that we have the best that we can get accommodation-wise so that people can put their energy towards learning, not just surviving. And especially for a large school, but I mean it's always true, no matter what size your school is. You want to make sure that the location has ample facilities for classroom, for kitchen, for dining, for whatever office space you might need, for a guest room if you have guest teachers coming in.
Who does
And
what,
think
too?
about singles and families and children. Do you have adequate bedrooms, bathrooms, toilets? Do you need to run a preschool or a child care program of some sort so that the maximum number of people can actually be involved?
I just have a question. I know you give all these files for us to learn, have, big word of you about, how the base function. But all this stuff, I work by heart because our school is coming from here. We go for a base word that have always a function, yeah.
Yep.
And sometimes they really don't allow the us to go there.
Well, you need to ask them these questions though.
Yeah.
And actually I have something else I'm going to give you. I don't think I'll hand it out now.
Yeah.
But, the next thing I want to talk about is the host-based role and your role as the incoming school. Because you need to define who's doing what.
Yeah.
So these are going to give you some things to think about and
Yeah,
the things you need to discuss in advance.
Yeah.